And now, please welcome Henk Rogers, founder, Blue Planet Alliance, and moderator, Julia Kumari Drapkin, founder and CEO, I See Change.
I think I'm going to take this side.
Thank you. You want me down here?
Oh, either way.
I gotcha. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much. All right. Well, Henk, I'm so excited to talk to you. A lot of people know you as the tenacious entrepreneur who brought Tetris from Russia to the rest of the world. And we're going to be mostly talking about climate change, but I got to say my 8-year-old son, Rowan, watched the movie last week, and he had to ask, was it really that intense?
It was really that intense in a different way. In other words, the movie made it into action, 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 but actually it was intrigue, intrigue, intrigue. Mm-hmm. So I kind of knew that the KGB was involved. I knew that I was breaking the law in the Soviet Union, and there were such things called gulags. But I didn't know how big of trouble I could be getting into, and so I went for it anyway.
Well, good for you, and that's what it takes to be a great entrepreneur. So, what parallels do you see with that moment, with the advent of personal computing and gaming, and this moment right now when it comes to the early days of climate tech and solutions? What advice do you have for all of the climate solutions makers and tech entrepreneurs in the audience today to seize this moment?
It's funny, but I was in Korea, and the politician asked me, so what should I do? What should we do? And I said, you know what, just tell your children the truth about climate change and then ask them what to do. Because they have no political agenda, they don't care about money. They understand that it's their future that's at stake. It's very simple. So the advice is stick to your guns. This is the biggest change that we're going to have to go through, and we are totally going to go through this.
Yeah, there's no going back. I certainly have chills thinking about it, to be honest. Well, you helped make Hawaii net negative clean energy, 100% commitments. And frankly, you were a huge inspiration to people like us in New Orleans post-Katrina, where our entire town had been destroyed, and we looked at Hawaii and said, oh my gosh, this is possible. Can you tell me how that made that happen, and specifically, how you got utility leadership to buy into this vision?
Okay, so first of all, when we first came up with the idea, we talked to the utility, we talked to the governor, we talked to whoever would listen. And they all, to the last person, said, what are you talking about? We make electricity by burning oil, $2 billion a year, and coal, $1 billion a year. And this is how we make electricity. Our job is to make it 24/7. And I said, wow, we have a tough battle ahead of us. But how do you get the politicians to be on your side? The answer is you have to get the people on your side. Mm-hmm. And how do you get the people on your side? You get the children on your side. So we had elementary school children go door to door and exchange 300,000 light bulbs. In so doing, having an explanation, a conversation between a child and an adult about saving energy, saving money, and fixing the climate. So the children push the adults push the politicians, and finally we have a mandate of 100% renewable energy in Hawaii. 100% by 2045, we were the first state to do so. Yeah. And since then, 13 other states have copied us. But just because you have a mandate that says you have to do it, doesn't mean that you're going to. So we changed the business model of the utility, so they make more money by switching to renewables. Mm-hmm. They used to make 10% on the price of oil. What a dumb business model, 10% on the price of oil, seriously? Today, so oil cost them 25 cents per kilowatt hour, and wind and solar cost them 8 cents. Mm-hmm. Add storage, it's up to 12 cents. So we say, okay, instead of 2.5 cents, you make 3 cents. The ratepayers pay less money, the utility makes more money. Win, win, win. And this can be replicated everywhere in the world.
Well, is that what you look for a little bit when it comes to the Blue Planet Alliance? And specifically as it relates to Hawaii and other island nations? Like, how do you scale that across?
Right, so Hawaii is sort of a success story. We're at 36% renewable energy today. And it's moving across the US. I mean, California copied us 2 years later. So that's like the world's 6th biggest economy. And so it's moving okay, but the US is only 4 point something% of the people in the world. And so in order to solve climate change, we have to get everybody else on board. So what we're doing is we're doing what we did in the US, starting with Hawaii, in the rest of the world, starting with island countries. So we just finished our second cohort. So now we've brought 18 island countries to Hawaii to show them what we did in Hawaii. I mean, the governor of the time speaks, the head of the utility, all the renewable energy providers, they all speak. So then they answer all the questions, because the islands, they just have no idea. And when I say we bring somebody from the island, we bring someone from the government, someone from the utility, someone from the regulatory agency, like the Public Utilities Commission, and somebody from the community, like an activist. So 4 people from each island country. And first of all, we teach them how we did it in Hawaii. And second, we teach them how to work together. Because in general, these people are working in silos. They never get to talk to each other. But in Hawaii, they're away from their country, and they all go back energized.
Well, that model of innovation and collaboration is amazing when you have 4 units to work with. But how do you scale that? So for example, my company, I See Change, we're a technology company that focuses on community priorities when it comes to all of these structural changes that we're dealing with at a base level. How do you scale that cooperation with your companies and kind of your approach? Being able to do this at scale, to deliver infrastructure at scale and have community priorities be center. And often community priorities and our climate priorities may not always align.
So our methodology is we create willpower. That's what we do. We create willpower, and we've created the willpower in Hawaii. If you go to Hawaii today and you ask the people what's going to happen with energy, they all tell you, oh yeah, we're going to go 100% renewable energy. And like 20 years ago, it was like, oh, there's no way we're going to get off oil. And so after you create that willpower, we watched it happen blossom in Hawaii, and then that willpower went from Hawaii to California. And so what we're expecting to do is to do the same thing with island countries, and then move that willpower from the island countries to countries. My target isn't just island countries, but I'd like to flip like Okinawa, Hainan, Jeju Island, Bali, so that a country can see an island inside of their own country undergoing the change, and then they'll say, oh my gosh, let's do this province, and let them compete. At the end of the day, it can be done. We have the money, we have the technology. All we need is the willpower.
Can you give me an example of a technology that you feel can scale through this system that this architecture that you've envisioned? Give me a success story.
So if you look at Kauai, it's one of our islands. You would think, oh, it's the rainiest island in the world, and you've heard that. So why don't we do hydro? But actually, they're doing it with solar. So today, they're at 70% renewable energy, all basically 80-90% solar. So all those countries that are in the equatorial belt, solar is like, I don't know, God-given energy source, if you will. So solar, and a lot of places have wind. So Hawaii is a combination of wind and solar. We're the southernmost state, so we have the best solar in the country. We have trade winds, so 95% of the time the wind is blowing very strong from one direction. And then we have geothermal. And I think geothermal is the one source of energy which is, I would say, virtually untapped. And you could see in Hawaii, a tiny percent, 30 megawatts out of like 2,000 megawatts is geothermal in Hawaii. When we are sitting on top of a hotspot, the Earth has a molten core. We are not going to run out of that energy source anytime soon. All we need to do is learn how to drill down to it. And guess what? The oil business has taught us how to drill. We know how to drill.
I'm aware.
Drill, baby, drill, whatever. You send down water, you get back steam. Yeah. This is like 200-year-old technology. That's how you make electricity. And for places that don't have geothermal, then there are places that have geothermal, that have excess. Use that excess energy to make hydrogen and then ship the hydrogen to places that don't have it.
We're talking about, enormous infrastructure opportunities, but business models that need to move, first of its kind projects and solutions. And there are solvers, of course, here in the room who are working on solutions that they're seeing and, problems that they've seen in their community, identifying them, solving them. And of course, our supporters in the room as well. What advice do you have for the solvers in the room to scale their solutions in partnership with their supporters or people like you?
Well, I would say, first of all, before you try to invent something new, look at what has already been done and scale that. So, for example, I went to Iceland to see their geothermal solution. And in Iceland, geothermal is about 25% of the energy solution. But I was just sitting at a table just now talking to a young man from Kenya, and they're like 90-something% geothermal.
That's right.
Today. Geothermal. So I don't understand what the problem is. Yes, it's nice to invent new solutions, but I kind of feel like we're in some kind of a war. And we need to have a war footing. We need to mobilize the way you would mobilize, for World War II. I'm told I'm not supposed to use this metaphor, but I'm using it anyway. We went from biplanes to jet planes. We invented radar, sonar, rockets, cruise missiles, and the atom bomb in 5 years using 1940s technology. This is 2024. There's nothing we can't do at this point in time. So
I agree with that. Actually, it was a climate science test who worked for the Office of Science and Technology Policy, and 15 years ago, and she was furious that we weren't treating this like it was the crisis of World War II. So if that's the case, then what do we need to do to catalyze that level of attention and investment?
I hate to say this, but I think young people need to get involved. You've seen recently when young people get pissed off, then everybody starts listening, and it's their future that's at stake. I've talked to plenty of old people, like people my age, and their answer is, well, I'm not going to be around when it gets really bad. I say, you selfish SOB, Don't you have children? What about?
Yeah, we can clap to that. Come on. Yeah.
Don't you have children or grandchildren, or what about them? You don't actually care about them? Nonsense. You do, and it's up to you to do something about it, or your legacy will be that you did nothing. When you stood by, you could have done something. You did nothing. I want everybody to do something.
Where a lot of us are doing something. So I thank you, and I thank you.
I have one last message here. So people ask me if I have hope, and I say, no, I do not have hope. I have determination. Because hope isn't going to save us. Nobody's going to come in and invent something that is going to be fix everything. No, it's up to us. We're the ones who consume the fossil fuel that's causing climate change. We're the ones who have to stop.
Well, thank you for your determination. And thank all the solvers for theirs. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.